speak about what the community is all about. For some of us who are just joining the platform and you did not join from the Amazon AWS Nigeria user group community, we have a WhatsApp group, very large one. Now we have about 3 WhatsApp group, and that is very massive. And we have people joining from other platforms. If you like to join, you will see a link where you can be able to join. So the community is just to promote Amazon Web Services in Nigeria, and to also have some collaboration within Africa. And we know that AWS has just opened an office in Nigeria, and we're already getting some little AWS services locally in Nigeria, and I'm sure Devin will possibly chip into that. So if you like to join, you would have a link at the end of this slide for you to be able to join, and we'll still post it on the chat for you to see. So we're on Telegram, we're on YouTube, and we're on Twitter, and I'm sure you registered on our meetup, which is actually the central platform for every one of us. So this is also to point out the agenda again, so I won't have to bore you with that. So I would want to pass it over to, I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll be passing it over to Devin, and Devin will be able to share his screen and he will take it up from there. Thank you for your time, and I hope it will be a very insightful and very interesting session, and thanks for joining. Thank you.
Thank you, Ishmael. Firstly, I think a big thank you to yourself and to Akim. It's really is a privilege for me to speak to you in your group. So I'm very excited to be with you. I'm just going to share my screen. Ishmael, if you can let me know when you can see my screen, then we can kick off.
Oh, I will.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
I'm trying to share, but I think I don't have pro rights to share yet. Can you guys help me with that? Apologies.
Let me see. Oh, Akim, could you give privilege? I can't from here. I think it's trying to sort that out.
Okay. Yeah, let me sort it out. I think you should be able to, because you were able to present, right? You should, because you got co-host. You should be able to present.
Sorry, I'm having a look here, and
you say you don't have privilege?
Yeah, I don't have the privilege at this point. Able to see my screen now. Can you see my screen?
Exactly.
Yes.
Fine.
Yes.
All righty. All right, folks, thank you again for the opportunity. A big thank you to Akim and Ishmael for allowing me to speak. This is a real privilege. So just a little bit about myself before we get started. As you know, this is a cloud computing session with AWS. I'm Devin Naika. I'm a senior solutions architect working at AWS based down here in Cape Town, South Africa. I work primarily in the FSI, or the financial services industry space, and I also have a background. I've worked with many banks and a few different insurance organizations over here in South Africa throughout my career. So again, a real privilege to be here. My previous roles, I've got a bit of a checkered past. I started off as a developer. I did some work as an IT operations manager at some of the banks. I've also had roles as an enterprise and solutions architect between banks and insurance organizations as well. In my last role at one of the bigger insurance companies in South Africa, I was the head of digital transformation from an IT perspective, so that was quite a good role. And now I'm very blessed to be here at AWS and working as a solutions architect. I must say, personally speaking, my opinion, this is probably one of the best roles in IT in the world. In my working for this organization and having this particular role, I get a lot of opportunities to interface with customers, help them solve their problems, and really my role is to take their customers' business requirements and translate it into a technical solution. All right, so After that intro, just diving into the agenda, I think first you'll understand how AWS assists businesses with their transformation objectives. I'll give you a high-level overview on the security infrastructure capabilities at AWS. You'll get an overview of the different types of services which AWS offers customers through our breadth and depth offerings. And finally, we'll dive into the different domains which make up cloud computing. So just prior to this to the session, I was mentioning to Akeem and Ishmael that I wanted to do something a little bit more in depth with the machine learning, but as you know, machine learning is such a broad and diverse and also very topical subject at this point in time. It was quite difficult for me to compress it into a shorter sort of presentation. So I struck a deal with Akeem to actually do another presentation at your convenience on machine learning specifically. So, I'll take that offline with Akeem and Ishmael, and we'll try to arrange for that. So unfortunately, we don't have much on machine learning today, apart from some high-level topical stuff. But again, we will work on another session for machine learning, right? In terms of housekeeping, I'm unable to see some of the questions. So while I'm presenting, so please do feel free to interrupt me while I'm speaking. Either you might raise your hand or pose a question on the chat, and Akeem and Ismail will help me with those questions. And then we also will have some time at the end of the session to answer any questions that you might have, right? So diving straight into it, right? How do our customers benefit from the cloud, right? And you'll see from an AWS perspective, there are really 5 main advantages to being on AWS, right? The first is agility. And if you really look at agility, what does that mean, right? It's really the ability to change course when it makes sense for you as a customer to do so, right? So what that means is we do this by learning and observing the changes in our environment as a customer, right? So what AWS does to help the customer with that is that we let our customers quickly spin up resources as and when you need them. You could deploy servers within minutes, literally, right? It means that you can experiment more quickly and frequently. And if an experiment fails, you can always deprovision those resources without risk, right? The second benefit of being on AWS, or why customers are moving to AWS, is really cost savings. And you'll find we find in our experience that a lot of customers actually start their cloud journey because of the cost savings that you can get from being on the cloud, and specifically on AWS, right? So we at AWS, we let the customers only pay for the IT resources as you consume it, right? You don't have to make an upfront capital investment with AWS. You can procure your servers and services as and when you need them, right? And because of this, you are able to, in many and most of the instances of your workloads, achieve cost savings by running your workloads in the cloud as opposed to an on-premise data center. The third benefit which really helps customers is the elasticity, and elasticity is really the if you look at an example, right, in a traditional on-premises data center, your customers will over-provision to the infrastructure to ensure that they have enough capacity to handle the business operations, right? With AWS and in the cloud, you can actually provision the amount of resources that you actually need at a point in time, knowing that you can scale up and down with the needs of your business and as the demand goes up or down, right? And this would really reduce the cost and improves the customer's ability to meet their end users' demands, right? If you think about it from a practical perspective, right, a good example of this is, let's say you've got a website, right, and which will allow you to do online shopping. Based on your historical usage statistics or your stats, that your peak periods for buying on your website might be, let's say, month end just after payday, right? And so typically that's when you see your most traffic. So you're going to have enough provision capacity in your on-premises data center to make sure that you can meet the capacity and the demands for your month-end traffic, right? But typically, if you what happens, right, when you're running that in the data center, at the end of the month, you've got enough server capacity provision to meet the need. Fantastic. That's really good. But what about your off-peak times, right? Or your other periods of the month where there's not so much user demand? You've got infrastructure sitting there, which is physically not fully utilized, but you're still paying for it, right? And that's where the elasticity on the cloud really helps you, right? So what we can do at AWS, you can scale up and down along with your customer needs and demands, right? And you can ramp up your infrastructure as and when it happens. You can do it in an automated fashion as well. And the key to this is you must always remember that you only pay for what you use, and that's one of the real big benefits of being in the cloud. The next benefit is from an innovation perspective. And innovation, most of you are familiar with it, but it really talks to the facts of that with AWS, your customers can focus your highly valuable IT resources on developing applications which deliver business benefit instead of the heavy lifting of managing infrastructure at your data centers. So if you think of it in this way, in a practical way, right? You as a business leader, a business owner, wouldn't you rather have your developers or your development team developing new products rather than having to worry about the management of the infrastructure, which you typically have on-premises data center? Being in the cloud allows you that ability to innovate more. AWS will do the heavy lifting and the management of the underlying infrastructure for you, and it allows you as the customer to really focus your efforts on innovation and building new products. And finally, the fifth benefit of why most customers are moving to the cloud and benefit from AWS is our global footprint. We have a concept of a region, which is a physical location around the world where we have a cluster of data centers. And with each of these clusters is classified as an availability zone. So why would that be important for you as a customer? Having a global footprint, you can literally deploy your solutions in geographic locations which are closer to your users anywhere in the world within the matter of minutes, right? Your business can expand into other locations, having the confidence that the customer experience will not be impaired when compared to your on-premises data center, right? Moving along, we talk about the shared responsibility model. So this is a very important concept within AWS, right? The shared responsibility model really means that. So if we look at it from a security perspective, a lot of you would have heard that at AWS, security is our #1 priority, right? And the AWS cloud has been architected to be one of the most flexible and secure environments available, right? In the shared responsibility model, we take care of the security of the cloud. What does that mean, right? So this is the actual physical infrastructure, the facilities, the building blocks, and the actual compute. We take care of that security, right? We have the same security isolations that are employed in traditional data centers, such as physical data center security, isolation, separation of networks, and segregation between hardware and storage as well, right? And all our customers inherit the best practices of the and policies of the and processes which have been built into these data centers from a security point of view, and it really meets the needs of our most security conscious customers, right? So you as the customer are responsible for security in the cloud, right? What does that mean, right? So that really means that you are responsible for securing the workloads and application that you deploy in the cloud, right? You have the flexibility to put more emphasis on the security of your sensitive data, and you adjust it as needed in areas where you have less concern. So we take care of everything underlying from a physical perspective, but when you deploy your workloads into the cloud, you're responsible for security of those workloads, and you can make it as secure or as flexible as you need it to be based on your use case, right? I guess a good example of this would be sometimes you might have customers, if you think about it, right, shared responsibility from a security perspective, the customers who deploy the workloads would have the responsibility to ensure that the data at rest and in transit can be encrypted. So while in in theory, you don't have to encrypt your data. Obviously, from security perspective, it is best practice. So you can choose to not encrypt your data, but that would be up to you. But we give you the tools and the facilities and the capability to do that should you wish to need it. So you get the flexibility, right? One thing it's very, very important to understand is that, especially from a security perspective, you're not alone in this as a customer. We as AWS, we have the tools which allow you to secure your workloads according to best practices. Again, looking at the shared responsibility from a sustainability point of view, we are responsible for the sustainability of the cloud. What does that mean? So from a global perspective, AWS as a corporation, we have sustainability targets, and we're working towards goals to reduce the impact and carbon footprint, right? AWS is responsible for building efficient and operation data centers which have a low footprint globally, and our data centers are utilizing greener energy and supply, water, and those type of things, right? So what does that mean? So if you look at it, AWS, we have a target internally that we want to be powered 100% with renewable energy by 2030, right? But we're actually on target to reach that 100% renewable energy use within our regions and data within our availability zones by 2025. So we're 5 years ahead of schedule, right? So in terms of sustainability in the cloud, right, that's where we can support you as a customer with your broader sustainability goals, right? Technology can be an enabler to solving some of your bigger sustainability challenges, right? For example, as an AWS customer, you can actually help reducing your footprint by, for example, by using the minimum amount of hardware that is required to meet your workload needs. You can take advantage of burst capacity as well. You can identify and optimize slow-running code. You can look for opportunities to remove unneeded or redundant data, and you can also select some efficient architectural patterns, such as event-driven architecture, which will only kick off certain bits of processing in your workload based on an event that happens, which you are tracking for a business need, right? So there's lots of ways where you as a customer can also actually reduce your footprint as such, right? And as a customer, AWS gives you the availability of a custom carbon footprint tool, which gives you a view of all your footprint of your footprint metrics for your workloads as well. So it's actually quite a cool utility that you can use. You already have access to it, and you can actually understand how footprint heavy your workloads could be. Based on that, you can optimize your workloads to make to do your bit as a customer for sustainability globally. Moving along, so if you really have a look at it, right, and I'm sure a lot of you have either both in business or in technology, you have your technical, you have a background, but a lot of you would have seen that previously, you had to make a conscious because of budget pressures or because of timeline pressures, you had to make a conscious choice of whether you would actually deliver your product faster to market, or you'll do it in a secure way, right? But now with AWS, right, you don't have to make that difficult choice anymore, right? We have a full array of tools which helps our customers deliver in an agile and secure manner, right? So you'll have the best of both worlds, right? And part of that is, again, if you have a look at our global presence, to support our global businesses, we actually have 31 geographic regions around the world as depicted on this map here. And I think, as I mentioned to you a little bit earlier as well, this reach is important is because you can replicate your infrastructure in any region in the world, literally in minutes, right? But a benefit of that is that the data is in your control. The data stays in the region where you place it. We don't move your data for you. You are responsible for that, and we do not touch your data. If you have a look at the red dots on the diagram, based on customer need and customer requirements, we're continually looking at expanding our AWS regions. We've got 5 upcoming regions in the near future in Canada, Israel, Malaysia, Thailand, and New Zealand. And each of those regions have availability zones, as we mentioned, right? So you can watch out for this. Diving a little bit deeper into our regional and availability zone construct. So as I mentioned to you in the last slide, a region is a geographic location which is made up of a cluster of data centers, which are known as availability zones. The AWS Cloud currently has 99 availability zones globally linked to their respective regions. And again, why would this be important for you as a customer, right? Because you can really architect your applications to span multiple availability zones and regions to take advantage of both availability and low latency, right? And that will also help your users across the globe with a better customer experience, right? Each region has a minimum of 2 to 3 fully independent, redundant transit centers that allow the traffic to go across the AWS network, which enables regions to connect to the global network with high availability, right? So we've got our own internal backbone, where we communicate across the AWS region, also helping you with your performance and communication requirements, right? One other thing which is important to point out here is that it's very important to understand that each data center within our availability zone is fully autonomous, and it's self-sufficient with its own supply of power, water, to be able to operate autonomously in the event of incidents, right? Moving along, if you have a look, AWS, we really have the capability to support virtually any workload in the cloud, right? And if you have a look at our Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, or Amazon EC2, it offers over 650 generally available instances and instance types, right? More than any other cloud provider, right? We've been continually operating expanding our services, to support virtually any workload in the cloud, as I mentioned to you. And now we have more than 200 fully featured services for compute, database storage, networking, analytics, machine learning, and AI, Internet of Things, mobile security, hybrid, AR and VR, media and application development, right? Deployment and management. So you can see we have a full range of services that helps with pretty much any workload or use case that is required to be solved, right? As an AWS customer, it's really important to understand that you're not alone, right? And if you look at this particular diagram, you can see we've got you as the customer and your AWS team. That's really in the middle, and you have peripheral capabilities supporting you in your cloud journey, right? So in the middle with you as the customer, you have your core AWS team, which is really made up of your account manager and your solution architect. I, for example, am a solution architect for one of the customers here in South Africa, and I work very closely with them, and I am dedicated to them fully to help them achieve their cloud objectives, right? So our focus really as the account manager and solution architect is we are responsible for customer success. The account manager is responsible for the relationship with the customer, and the solution architect's role is to take the customer's business needs and translate that into a technical solution, right? I, as the solution architect, I'm also here to advise you, right? Looking at the peripheral sort of support that you have as a customer as well, we have AWS professional services, or who we call ProServe, and it's really a AWS consulting service, if you like. If the customer does not have the ability or ability or maturity or internal delivery capability to deliver on their cloud workloads, AWS professional services can assist you in delivering your workloads, right? Then moving down the circle in a counterclockwise fashion, you've got AWS support, or AWS managed services, right? And they offer AWS managed services offer a managed infrastructure if the customer wants to offload the operations into AWS. What does that really mean? So sometimes if you are new to the cloud and your cloud team within your organization is not that big, you have workloads in the cloud in production and you need to manage them, and you don't have the physical sort of manpower on on the ground, AWS managed services will be there, and they will actually help you manage your production workloads for you. In a obviously in a controlled fashion as per your sort of requirements, right? Moving further down, you've got AWS training and certification, and it really allows you the opportunity to build your own skills in-house, your AWS skills in-house. There's a whole range of free and paid for training solutions, which you can leverage off to meet your organization's need from a training and AWS certification perspective. We also have the partner network, the APN, the AWS Partner Network, which is the largest system integrators, which includes the largest system integrators, such as Deloitte, Accenture, who can assist you with your cloud journey as well. Similar to a ProServe kind of offering where they can help you. You don't necessarily have to use AWS professional services. You can use the partners as well to help you deliver on your workloads, should you choose to do that. The partner network also includes some of the largest independent software vendors, such as Microsoft, Oracle, and SAP, that integrate onto our platform. And we also have those that have built their platform on top of AWS, such as Heroku, for example, right? AWS Marketplace is actually quite nice as well. It's a marketplace where other software solutions that are not sort of natively offered by AWS, but these partners market their software on our AWS platform, and it becomes quite easy for you to actually just sign up for that particular offering should you need it, right? And then finally, with AWS support, I know we spoke about Amazon Managed Services a little bit earlier, or AWS Managed Services. AWS support as well is also a proactive one-on-one fast response support from experienced support technical engineers as well. So we try to be proactive to identify some of the issues that you may experience and work with you as a customer to see how we can remediate that, right? Moving along, we've got the concept of the well-architected framework. Now, some of you may or may not have heard of this, but excuse me, the well-architected framework is really a framework that helps you build secure, high-performant, resilient, and efficient infrastructure for a variety of workloads and applications, right? It's built around our 6 pillars that you see here, and the well-architected framework really provides you with a consistent approach for the customers to evaluate their architectures and implement their scalable solutions. So moving into the different domains that you have within AWS, as we saw on our breadth and depth slide, if we start off with the compute capability, you can see that in terms of cloud computing, compute describes the concepts and the objects which are related to software computation, right? And the success of the software computation, right? It's really a generic term that's used to reference processing power, memory, network storage, and other resources that's required for the computational success of any program or application, right? This is really a broad topic, right? But I mean, just high level, if you look at the blocks in orange, they refer to serverless computing. So what does that mean? It's really, it refers to the development of applications with externally managed underlying server infrastructure. So you have the ability to use these services, but AWS manages the underlying infrastructure for you. It's one of those instances where we take the heavy lifting away from you and allow you to solve business problems, as I mentioned a bit earlier, right? Things like Lambda, which is your serverless functions, Fargate, which is your container-based service, so you can put your Docker-based applications on something like AWS Fargate, and we will manage the underlying infrastructure for you. Whereas things like EKS, which you can see in the black block there, a lot of you have played around with Kubernetes. You understand that with Kubernetes, it gives you the ability to deploy Docker applications, but you still have a lot of responsibility and control of the underlying infrastructure, right? So while Fargate takes that responsibility away from you. You might still have certain workloads where you decide that it's feasible for you, that you would like to manage that underlying infrastructure yourself. And with Amazon EKS, we give you that capability, right? As you can see, the black blocks over here are basically your services which run on server infrastructure, which you have the control over. So it's a little bit of heavy, it's a little bit of management on your side, but it is the benefit of that comes with the flexibility that you get with the management that you have, right? But obviously that does involve you allocating your time for that management, right? If we look at from a compute perspective as well, you know, in terms of chip architecture, right? AWS, we have a relationship with many of the large vendors in the industry, and we've also spent a bit of time developing our own chip architecture. So if you start with the first example, for example, you can have a look at Intel and AWS. We've had a 16 plus year relationship with Intel, dedicated to developing, building, and supporting cloud services that are designed to manage cost and complexity, accelerate business outcomes, and to scale and meet your current and future computing requirements, right? Using this Intel chip architecture. With AMD, we have AMD powered EC2 instances, which gives the customers the ability to run general purpose, memory intensive, burstable, computer intensive type of workloads, graphic intensive workloads as well, all at a significant price advantage, you know, to comparable offerings. Then, as I mentioned to you at the beginning of this sort of slide, we also have AWS Graviton processors, which is AWS's sort of offering for particular chipset architecture. And we designed this to deliver the best price performance for your cloud workloads running on Amazon EC2. What do we mean by that? As an example, you have something like AWS Graviton 3 processors, which are the latest in the AWS Graviton processor family. They provide up to 25% better compute performance, up to 2 times higher floating point performance, and up to 2 times faster cryptographic workload performance, right? Compared to previous generation AWS Graviton processors, right? The really good thing from a cost perspective is that AWS Graviton 3 processors also deliver up to 40% better price performance over a comparable current generation x86 based instances, right? So if you think about it, up to 40% saving on your EC2 computing costs if you use Graviton 3, which is significant, especially for your power hungry and resource hungry workloads, right? Storage, again, please feel free to stop me if you have any questions. But jumping into storage itself, you know, as a domain, we have the concept of EBS, or Amazon Elastic Block Store, and that really offers you persistent storage volumes for your use with your Amazon EC2 instances. Persistent in the sense that it's any data storage device that retains the data once the power to that device is switched off, right? So think about it, you can shut down, not terminate, but you can shut down your EC2 instances and still have your EBS volumes will not lose the data, right? It's not ephemeral in that sense, right? And then the other benefits you have from a storage perspective is that all your Amazon EBS volumes are automatically replicated within your availability zone to protect you from sort of component errors or lower level errors. It's really designed for high availability and durability, right? And EBS volumes as well also has the benefit of providing you with consistent low latency performance that you need to run your workloads. And the nice thing about EBS, Amazon EBS, is that similar to, I mean, in line with elasticity, you can really scale up and down your usage of your EBS volumes within a matter of minutes, right? And you can pay a reduced price for and just for what you provision. So that's quite nice. Moving on to sort of other services from storage-based perspective. A lot of you might have heard about Amazon S3, or S3 stands for Simple Storage Service. It's an object-level storage service, which means that if you want to change a part of a file, you have to perform the modification on that file and then upload and then reload that entire object, right? That entire modified file. This service S3 stores data as objects within resources known as buckets, as you can see in the icon over there. And it's really a broad subject, and I wish we had more time to talk about S3 and in detail to see what an amazing sort of capabilities it gives you. But we can have a conversation about it offline if you're keen. We can get in touch. I can certainly give you a bit more thorough rundown into it. But I mean, just high level, if you look at some of the common Amazon S3 scenarios where you can the S3 service will solve your problems. The first one could be something like backup and storage, right? Where Amazon S3 provides backup and data storage services to third parties. So that's quite useful. You also have application hosting, where S3 provides services that deploys, installs, and manages web applications for you. So that's quite useful. Multimedia hosting. So what does that mean? You can create a redundant, scalable, and highly available infrastructure that hosts uploads and downloads of videos, photos, and music, right? So it's sort of like a content management type of service, right? In that sense. You could also use S3 for software delivery, where you can host your software applications so that customers can simply download them. So you can see there's a wide range of use cases that you can use S3 for, and it's also quite well priced in terms of what you might get out there for comparable type of services. Sorry, forgive me, I'm battling with my sinuses a bit, so if I'm breathing a bit funny, do forgive me. Looking at our database services, again, we also have a wide range of database type of services purpose built on AWS, and when you think about this collection of the different types of databases, you won't find this collection anywhere else, right? And that's simply the fact, right? So if you look at instead of looking at a list of like hundreds of databases, we think about common database categories as we've got listed here. And the reason I guess we break them up into these categories because they're quite suitable for solving and for use in different use cases, right? So I mean, if you start off with relational, which is probably something which a lot of you are familiar with, but if you have a workload where you have strong, you need strong consistency, your data is highly relational in nature. Sorry, you have ACID transaction, then it's really typically where you'd need a relational database, and a service like Amazon Aurora or Amazon RDS, which RDS has support for open source engines such as MariaDB, Postgres, MySQL, and also support for commercial engines such as SQL Server, Oracle database as well. So that's the RDS service. Amazon Aurora is our relational database service, which is native to Amazon as well. So you can use that. So you have a wide range of relational databases at your service, at your disposal. Sorry. Looking at key value, we've got a few different flavors of key value databases. I mean, DynamoDB, for example, is it's really your high throughput, low latency database, key value pair database, which is quite useful. It's really effective for your key value data structures. We find a lot of it's also quite useful for mobile applications, for example. It's quite for mobile apps which need typically low latency and quick retrieval and writing of data. We find that DynamoDB is particularly useful for those type of use cases. DocumentDB, we have a service called Amazon DocumentDB, which helps you store your documents, and you can query them quite simply and also quite efficiently and quickly. Amazon Neptune, that's actually quite a nice graph database, and it's really suitable for holding data which is highly highly, I don't want to say relational because it's not a relational database, but they're very like social media type applications, which is highly, they have a strong relationship as such, right? So that's quite useful. And as I said, it's used typically in your social media type applications. Amazon TimeStream, for your time series database, that's actually quite useful for things like event tracking and those type of things. And then finally, you also have your ledger type databases, which is actually quite useful for things like blockchain architectures. It helps you implement that for your immutable transactions. So we have Amazon QLDB, which actually helps you to fit that use case. So you can see from a database perspective, you have a whole wealth of different types of database services on AWS, which will help you to solve pretty much any database problem, right? Moving along, security, as I mentioned to you, I think any AWS person you speak to will always tell you that security is our #1 concern or our #1 tenet. And again, we have a whole host of services. I mean, you can see over here, there's a whole bunch of services. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I mean, just broadly speaking, from an identity and access management point of view, we have services which help you to securely control access to your AWS resources, right? Your detective controls are really security controls that are designed to log, detect, and alert after an event has occurred. So that's actually quite useful for that. For infrastructure protection, AWS has services that ensures that your systems and services within your workload are protected against unintended or unauthorized access and potential vulnerabilities. Excuse me. For data protection, you can control your data by using data and access to your data by using some powerful AWS services and tools, which will help you determine where to store your data and how to encrypt it, who has access to it, etc. From an incident response perspective, from an incident response perspective, you have a lot of services which are designed to help you reduce the potential for failures in your workloads and to accelerate your recovery from critical incidents, right? So, we help you with that. And then finally, from a compliance perspective, which is something we spoke about a little bit earlier as well, with our AWS compliance services, the customers are empowered to understand the robust controls in place at AWS to maintain the security and the data protection of your data. So you have the ability to sort of inspect and audit that, right? Again, this slide is actually quite a good slide. It helps you understand from a security perspective that we've worked with many of the thought leaders and security leaders globally who help you, who have a good understanding of security. And we've worked with them to also sort of share some of their offerings on our platform. But we also work with them to ensure that, the integration from a security perspective with their offerings is quite seamless, right? Networking, again, networking is such a broad and diverse topic again as well. And if you really want to dive deep into it, I'm certainly happy to have a conversation with you on that. But some of the concepts we have within Amazon AWS in the cloud is you start with the VPC or a virtual private cloud, and it's really a service that allows you to logically isolate a section of the AWS cloud for your specific workload, right? And it allows you to launch your AWS resources within that logically separated section of within the cloud, obviously in a secure manner, right? It allows you to control the virtual network resources. You can select your IP address ranges. You can create subnets, routing table, network gateways, and those type of things. All the stuff that you are really familiar with from a networking and security perspective to isolate your workload in a secure manner, right? Some of the other capabilities that we have, Amazon CloudFront, which is a service I really love. I mean, CloudFront delivers content through a worldwide network of data centers called edge locations, right? So it really allows you to access frequently. You as an end user can access frequently accessed content. Most of the time, it's like media, videos, music, photos, whatever the case might be, through your edge locations at a much lower latency and at the highest possible performance, right? So it's CloudFront's edge locations. They're really designed to quickly deliver popular content to your viewers, right? And as the content becomes less popular, the individual edge locations may, have the ability to delete them or to free up space, and then also potentially put them into regional caches as well, right? So, with the regional edge caches are basically CloudFront locations that are deployed globally, and they're closest to their viewers as well. So instead of going directly to the source and accessing content which has been recently accessed, which is a longer sort of round trip if you think about it. If it's closer to your regional cache, then it's simply, and the content is still valid and fresh, if that makes sense to you, then you're able to serve that content back to the user at a much better sort of time and latency, right? Yeah, and look, from an enablement perspective, if you remember one of the slides previously where we talked about the type of enablement that we have, you as a customer, you have your core account team, which is your account manager and your solution architect. You'll remember training and certification was part of it as well. So in that spirit, we also have some ways in which we can enable you with AWS. We have things like the AWS skill build, and again, happy to share these links with you if you don't already have it. But through the AWS skill build, you can do self-learning. We've got formal training through training and certification, as I mentioned to you, where we can look at your organization's needs and help you understand how to navigate the different training and certification paths for your organization. We also have things like immersion days. Immersion days are where we sit with the customer, typically in sort of like a hands-on environment where you have access to the AWS console. We have some pre-prepared training content with use cases where you kind of work through those use cases on the AWS console, playing around with the service as well, to get familiar with it. So that's quite a good thing. And then, as well, as I mentioned to you, we also have a training framework through our AWS Skill Guild, right? Again, happy to share these links with you. So I think apologies, Akimo and Ishmael. I hope I didn't take too much time, but I mean, how can we help you innovate? I'm open to some questions.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to know if we have some questions on the chat. I don't know if it's time for you to take it or you want to get done with the presentation.
Yeah, I'm almost, I'm pretty much done. One thing I'd like to mention to you, one of our sort of internal sites is undergoing maintenance, so I didn't get a chance to source a link for that. But Akeem and Ishmael, if I could ask you, I'll provide you with a customer survey link, and if you it'll just take you a few minutes just to sort of give us feedback about what you thought about this talk, about this presentation. We're very happy to, we always are eager to get customer feedback. So please, I'll share the link with Akeem and Ishmael, and then if you could take a few minutes out of your time to give us your feedback, which will help us in our future presentations. Well, we'd really appreciate that. But thank you. This is me. Again, my name is Diven Naika. This is my email address. And feel free to contact me whenever you can, and I'll do my best to assist you. And yeah, thank you. I'm happy to take questions.
Okay, thank you, Devin. It's been a very insightful session. We appreciate that insightful presentation and all the informative session. Even I myself, despite the fact I'm AWS certified and I have certification across other cloud providers, I actually learned other things. So I don't know, I want to take the questions in the order at which it was asked. Then I also need to mention to everybody, the attendees, that while the session was going on, myself and Akim were taking note of some of the questions we're going to ask people in order for them to be able to get the credit. So after the session has been answered, I would implore all attendees to prepare to answer questions, and we would be able to give them the credit. But the credits, we also need to let you understand that is a function of speed. So the first person to post the answer in the chat would get the credit. So for every question we ask, whoever posts the correct answer first get the credit, and we're giving 4 to 6. So for me to start the question, the first person was Ade, and Ade asked the question and said, are these regions coming soon or availability zones coming soon? Maybe I should rephrase Ade's question to make it easier for you. Is which of those availability zones or region that you showed in the map that are still coming soon? I think that would be a better answer. That would be a better way to ask the question.
Sure, that's for me, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So we're always continually building our regions. So for those 5 new regions that I mentioned, which is Canada, Israel, New Zealand, Thailand, and Malaysia, they should be online probably within the next year or so. But to be honest with you, we don't. Regions are built on customer demand and obviously based on local factors and stuff. We try to build them as quickly as we can, and generally we share those dates. So while I don't have actual dates for you, but it should be probably within the next year unofficially. I'm happy to share with you the link where you can actually you continuously check up on our global footprint when those regions are coming live and online. But just to give you a view, like just recently as of this year, we've taken about another 5 regions live as well, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so that gives you like a feel for it.
Oh, thanks for the feedback. We will be glad to have the link. So maybe if you can get it now, we would be glad for you to post it on the chat. And if it's not, you could send it to us. So maybe I should go for the next question, or Akim, you want to go for the next question? Okay.
Oh, you can go. Please go. Please go ahead.
Okay. The next question is, it was trying to ask, what's the difference between an edge location and local zone?
Brilliant question.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you could go.
Oh yeah. So sorry, my video is acting a bit funny.
No, you're fine. Your video is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the edge location is really the local zone is localized infrastructure that you have in a city that's actually not it's not a fully blown region, but we do have certain AWS services and capabilities which are deployed there for your benefit. So it really speeds up the customer experience. Whereas an edge location is really tailored for faster content delivery. Think of it as a content delivery network, but faster content delivery for very specific type of media generally. So it's typically your photos, your music, and your videos and those type of things, right? So things that are frequently accessed by customers, that will be delivered in an edge location to your user, which is geographically close to that edge location. Whereas your local zone is really we put those in different geographical locations globally, but it may not have the same kind of coverage as what you would have for an edge location, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, I think it made a lot of sense, and I don't know if I can chip in and you could confirm what I said. So maybe to bring it back home as a leader in the community group, the local zone is actually what we have in Nigeria. Am I right? The local zone is what we have in Nigeria. So
yes,
that will relate better.
I believe you also have one in Kenya as well. There's one in Nairobi as well. And there's 3 in Africa, if I remember correctly. One in Nigeria, one in Kenya, and one in Johannesburg. Yes.
Oh, super. Oh, that's good. So people can understand the local zone precisely. So I think the next question is coming from Bayan Sunny. And he said, does AWS has any mentorship program?
Mentorship?
Yes, like maybe they have a mentorship program.
That's an excellent question. I need to get back to you on that one, but I know internally we have programs where senior members within the organization mentor junior organizations. So that's junior peer members who just join the organization, and teach them about our culture. We teach them about our very unique way of doing things, right? So that's more for AWS employees. But we definitely have things like AWS internships, AWS graduate programs, and then also we have, I suppose, our community and our user groups as well is a way in which we're able to sort of reach out and communicate with our different users. So again, I can give you a more structured answer on that because it's not really my area of expertise, but we do have a few sort of mechanisms which we can help you on that.
Okay, just to chip in, so invariably all these platforms and communities still form boils down to mentorship. So I think that would solidify what is being said. So then the next question is, someone was asking if an edge location can be in the same location as a region. If
Yes.
not, why not? If yes, why would that be any helpful?
No, absolutely. So the answer is yes. If you have a look at, I think I can think of a few examples in Europe where you'll have regions and edge locations quite close to each other, right? But remember, the purpose of an edge location is to deliver your content, or one of its purposes is to deliver frequently accessed content to the end user in a much faster and lower latency, better performant kind of fashion, right? So even though you might have something that is sitting in the region, let's say you are accessing a photograph, right, off a website, right? Typically what would happen is, I'll give you a practical example. The user posts a request via his mobile phone or via his web application. He hits the edge location first, and it says, "Is this particular photo available at the edge location?" The answer is no, because it's never been accessed before. Then it'll go back to the region where the actual content is hosted. It'll serve that content, bring the photo back. It'll cache it at the edge location, and then give it back to the user, right? So the purpose of the region in this case was to actually it was the source of the data, and then it provided it to the edge location, right? Then the second user comes along in maybe a few seconds later and says, "Hey, I want that same photo." So then he or she will go first to the edge location. Because the time to live for that content is still valid, then instead of going back to the server and serving the content, which increases the time, it increases the compute that's needed on the server side to serve that content, you can, because that edge location is geographically closer to that user, it just gets sent back to him from the regional cache. And so that's essentially the difference between the two. I mean, Ishmael, I don't know if you want to weigh in on that as well.
Yeah, I think you've actually break down the question, because the question was asking if the edge location can actually be in the same location with the region. I think they are actually interwoven because there is actually a closeness between them. And you have actually answered the factor of caching, which is actually a function of speed of access. And once it is cached, for every other person who tend to request that same content would be able to get it faster. So invariably, you don't have to even get to the region. So, and I think that is what we should be considered. So I think invariably you've actually done justice to the question. Then somebody was asking another question, Ade. He said, he's curious how comfortable companies could feel putting all their information, that is data, on and intellectual property, which is IP, on AWS cloud services without potentially revealing or exposing the information to Amazon as a company, especially if they are a competitor. So invariably, to summarize what he's saying is data privacy on AWS, especially if it's a competitor, putting their sensitive information on AWS if AWS can have access to it. That is the summary.
Yeah. Look, that is a brilliant question. Security is super, super important to us. And I'm actually just going to pull up some stats here. But as I mentioned to you as part of the talk, right, your sorry, I'm just trying to pull it up, but I can't see it. It's fine. But AWS has, from a security perspective, right? I think the number is 143 of our actual services are integrated, are fully sort of compliant from a security point of view in terms of the industry standards for security, right? The industry and compliance standards, things like PCI DSS, POPI, and those type of things, right? But to answer your question, you have lots of mechanisms in place. So if you want to put your data onto the cloud without AWS seeing it, you can. There's encryption mechanisms. For example, let's say you put some data on an S3 bucket. You can use your own customer managed security keys to help encrypt that data. So you are responsible for that, because you have generated those encryption keys and you're encrypting the data. AWS nor another AWS or a competitor will be able to even access it, right? Because you've supplied your own keys using industry standard encryption, right? If you look at things like RDS, which is your relational database service, you look at your EBS volumes, you have configuration options available to you where you can actually say, I would like my data to be encrypted as well. But again, AWS, we don't touch your data. You are responsible for your data. We never move your data. And certainly, the other sort of obvious way in which you could as I mentioned to you when we went through the slides, you have your VPC, right? So within your workload, your VPC is a logical partition that only you have access to, right? And that's why you're creating that that boundary, that network boundary. And within there, any of the data or resources that you have in there is not accessible by anybody apart from yourself, right? Obviously, there are ways in which you can make that data accessible publicly. Can it be done? Yes. Is it good security practice? No. So it's also your responsibility to make sure that the data you have in the cloud, you're responsible for the security of that data as well. So if you make, sometimes we can make a mistake and you can publicly expose your data, it gives you that flexibility. Is that good security? No. Can it be done? Yes.
Okay, thanks for that. I think you did a lot of justice, and also it relates, let me just purchase more about AWS shared responsibility, that's security on the cloud and security in the cloud and security on the cloud. So you are responsible for your data, and AWS does not have anything to do with your data. It is your sole responsibility. So somebody asked, what's the baseline security of the cloud done by AWS extend into security in the cloud? Okay, I think we've done justice to that. So we've actually answered the question. So to an extent, I think all questions have been answered. So except if I miss any, and Akim, I don't know if I miss any question, and maybe it's time for us to take the questions for the AWS credit. Maybe I could bring you in.
Yeah, I think all the answers that I have so far been answered. I don't see any other questions. Yeah, I don't see any other question.
Okay, yeah. So okay, you can
Ishmael,
proceed.
Sorry, Ishmael, I did see a question. Somebody asked if we can share the material of the content that presented.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So I'll share that with yourself, Ishmael, and Akim, and then you can disperse it to the crowd.
Okay. And also, we will post the recording on the YouTube channel along with the slide. So, you guys stay tuned. It might take a couple of days, but yeah, we're going to post it.
Okay, so everybody should stay tuned to the YouTube channel for you to be able to see the recording of this session and also the slide. So Akim, do you want to take the questions one after the other so that people could get ready and could actually get the credits, because we're 70 minutes behind, 70 minutes to the end of our scheduled time.
All right, I have some questions. I don't know, Ismail, you also have any questions, but yeah, I can post it, and whoever has the fastest fingers will be the lucky winner. So let's see.
So everybody, I would put your attention towards the chat, because that is going to be the source of the question. And
yeah, we're going to post it. So we're going to post the question.
So folks, I'm assuming I'm not going to answer here. I'm going to stay off this one.
Yeah. Please stay off this one.
Yeah, we could just need you to maybe pick the fastest fingers, correct ones.
Sure.
All right. So the first question is coming here. So whoever get the answer right will win. All right. 1, 2, 3. And if you guys has question, please let me know.
Adi.
All right,
Well
Adi.
Yes, nicely done.
Congratulations, Adi.
Congrats, Adi.
Please send us your email to me or Ismail. So the next question, fastest finger, please.
Nice.
I
have to go for is, yes.
Yes,
that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, please send us your email so you can send the credit. Congratulations, Ace.
Well done. Well done.
All right. The next question, fastest finger, please. It should be it. Oh, it's you already won, so we're not gonna give.
Oluwaseun. Am I saying that correctly? Yeah,
yes.
Olu.
This is so fast. Oh.
Yeah, sorry, Ace. Yeah, I don't know if you're allowed to win twice. You're not.
You can only win, guys, one time. So
that means
congratulations.
we have to give the credit to the next person.
Yes.
After Ace.
Yes.
Oluwaseun. Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Congratulations.
Another question coming in. This is question number 4, I believe. Yes.
This is very exciting. I'm missing popcorn. I need some popcorn.
I can't wait it.
Abu.
Oh, Onuche Abu, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Because Ade already won, right?
Yeah, exactly. Onuche Abu.
Okay.
Congrats, Onuche Abu. So we're going for the 5th question. Don't forget to send your email to me as a direct message. I'd like to have it now for validation purpose. I have your email. Thank you. I'm waiting for others.
All right. Oniche, please send us your email.
Yeah, for validation purpose, so that we can know we're getting it from the attendees. Onuche, I have your email. Thank you.
All right. Number 5. Whose iPhone?
Oluwaseun, thank you. I have your email.
Who is iPhone? You guys, what is your name? Can you put your name? Okay. All right. Send us your email. I think you're the only one that answered the question. Nobody else. That's interesting. That's interesting one.
Ade, thank you. I have your email.
Okay. One last one. One last one, guys. One last one.
Akim, we're waiting.
Godwin.
Godwin.
Yes. Godwin.
Yeah,
Yes.
Godwin.
Godwin. Congrats, Godwin. Can we have your email? And
all right.
while we get the email, Akim, do you want to take remarks?
So I guess I don't have any other remarks besides thank you guys for joining. And thank you, Dean, for also coming to be a guest speaker. We're looking forward to have you for another event. So please stay tuned, guys. Yeah, please join us on Meetup page, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, YouTube, Twitter. So you guys stay tuned for upcoming events. Thank you guys for joining. Ismail, do you guys have anything else? Otherwise,
yes.
Well, we
I
need to
do.
collect the email though.
Yes, I have the email. I don't know if I should forward them to you.
You have all of them?
I have to send it to Divine. Yes, I think Godwin just sent his email, so I have everything completed. So which I can send to you, or I should send it to Divine?
No, just send it to me. Send them to me.
Okay, I'm sending it to you right away so that you can confirm you have every one of them. So
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you have it now.
Yeah, I do. Is this all of them?
Yes, I think that is all the 6.
Okay,
That is all the 6.
All right.
Okay,
You
so
guys stay tuned for more opportunity like this. There's more freebie to win coming up next event. So go ahead.
Okay, let me